morning.
Hi there.
I just wanted to know, I mean, I think Ralph pretty much answered it because I wasn't calling to call him a hypocrite, but if he thought that the industry was so negative, why stay? Look for something somewhere else, especially if you've made a name in what you've been doing.
Okay, my dear, I can answer for you. First of all, I'm an African-American male. I work in this industry. It took me a very long time to get a name in this industry. And it's very difficult to leave what you're doing. I make a good amount of money doing what I do. Unfortunately, I have sent my portfolio and my video reels and stuff to other artists because I've tried to leave the genre. Me and my rep, we've made many attempts. Racism does play a lot into this business. It's very difficult for a brother like myself to work with somebody who I'd love to work with, like Seal, for instance. And I've seen him at the Essence Awards. I've given him my cards, and we've contacted him. But he's surrounded by other people who have other people of other nationalities that they would prefer to work with around them. I've also tried to get with George Michael. You know, I've tried to get with innovative people that my creativity in terms of the type of styling and clothes and imaging would be expressed. And it's very difficult to get through the walls and the many layers. And no matter how long I've been in the business and who I've worked with in the past, I have found that it's very difficult. Other styles to find it. So we're kind of pigeonholed into this genre.
Right? Ralph,
Ralph,
Doreen, let me explain something to people just listening. And I've said this for ages about the record industry, so you know what's going on with it. The record industry in America is one of the last vestiges where you will find Jim Crow alive and well.
Oh, yes, you do.
All right, this is the way that the records you go buy in stores, when you go buy them, in, let's say, Tower Records or wherever you go, you'll notice that they're put in little categories like R&B, jazz, blah, 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 blah. The way record companies work is still fascinating to me. If you're black, you get herded into one department. It's called the R&B department. If you're not black, you are allowed to go into pop or whatever it is. Pop carries a lot of stuff. Adult contemporary, whatever it is. If you're a jazz artist, you get herded off into that little department. And you stay there. And it is very hard for artists to even, you know, like musicians sometimes, want to do more than one type of music.
It even has penetrated into, because I've even tried to move into, which I'm effectively doing, into the gospel or inspirational. But, you know, it's even broken down into that because white people will sing the same song and they'll in Christian music, and they'll be considered inspirational Christian music, whereas Vanessa Bell Armstrong and Shirley Caesar are considered traditional black gospel.
So what you have basically is a pattern of segregation that still exists in the Okay,
so that's to answer her question. I mean, if I could, my dear, I would have Vogue tear sheets, Allure tear sheets, but they choose to use Kevin Aucoin and other people instead of people like myself, Sam Fine, and other people too. But Sam Fine is a prominent black makeup artist who works with Patti LaBelle and all that.
All right, we're moving off the beaten path of rap, so I want to bring it back home here.
What can we do on the outside to, besides not buy the records, which they're not bought in this household?
Okay, I'll tell you what, and this is what I called for last night. When you see C. Dolores Tucker and William Bennett go into Warner Brothers, Time Warner, and they demand that this filth, that this garbage, that this vile music be taken off the shelves, what they need is support. And it's not just Time Warner. I don't want to just single them out. You have a lot of other companies, for instance. But Time Warner really fascinates me with this one because they were one of the major companies involved with the growth of Death Row Records through a deal they made with Interscope Music. Now here's how it can go, Doreen. If you put the lyrics to some of the songs that were released on these records on a T-shirt and went into a Warner Brothers theme park, they own amusement parks, they wouldn't let you in the park.
Okay.
They say that is too vile to be in their theme parks. But at the same time, they'll put it on a CD and put it in the store for your child to bring it home and play it in your home.
Oh, not in my house.
I understand. When they were asked whether they would play this stuff for their own children.
Can I ask this lady a question?
Go ahead.
How old are your children?
Right now, he's only 3.
Okay. But I guarantee you...
I don't see it getting any better.
No.
Only worse.
If you had older children, I have nieces and nephews. I don't have any children myself. I have nieces and nephews, and then between the ages of 9 and 14. They don't hear it in our homes because, they're basically Christian homes.
Right.
But when they get to school, I don't know how old you are, but I know when I was growing up, everybody...
I'm the same age as you.
Okay, we all wanted to be down. We wanted to be a part of the in-crowd group. And when I was growing up, we all wanted to, I think chic was the biggest group, and everybody wanted to learn how to hustle. And, kids, you can tell your kids what to do, and they're going to say, oh, no, Mommy, I'm not listening to it. But when they get to school, and if that's the popular culture in school, they're going to have their friends' Walkmans, and they're going to listen to it, and believe you me, they're going to be influenced by it. Now, whether or not they take the turn for the worse is going to depend upon how hard you drill in what it is that you have inside of you that's going to keep them away from it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, of course.
So,
of course. But I can only do so much in my home.
But this is why
I can't.
We have to shame the record companies.
We do.
And to stop, and we have to actually bring shame. Do you realize what is taking place here? This is why I call it a culture of death. What you have is one group of gangsters from the West Coast, and they pride themselves on being gangsters.
Yeah.
Right.
For instance, when Tupac Shakur was killed, reports were one of the reasons that there was no cooperation with the police was because the statement was made, we want to take care of this ourselves.
And they are going to.
And see,
This
that's
is
what frightens me.
this is mob mentality inside the record industry, but it isn't behind the scenes where like before. Mob control of an industry used to be something behind the scenes.
My greatest fear is, sir and ma'am, my greatest fear is that there's going to be some concert somewhere down the line, and a lot of young people are going to be there, and they're going to be different artists performing, and they're going to use that as a means to exact justice. And in the melee, a lot of people's innocent children who are just there caught up are going to get either trampled, shot. This is where it's total chaos.
We have to stop for a break. Doreen, thanks for the call. Ralph, stay on the line with me, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. James Golden here on News Talk Radio, WABC. We had a call from Ralph when we started this show, when we started taking calls, who works in the rap industry. And we've gone from there. All of this resulting from Tupac Shakur's statement made today by Reverend Herb Daughtry. Are we in society, have we given Tupac Shakur the kind of society he needed to blossom?
Listen, I wanted to ask Ralph a question. If he would agree that Tupac Shakur and others of his ilk are exploiting the urban blight that you see out here in the New York urban area and other urban areas. Hell, and I just lost my train of thought.
Oh, I think I know where you're going with that, but I don't think that the actual individual artists are to blame. If you really understood how far low down the totem pole they are, if it wasn't Tupac, it would have been somebody else.
Ralph, wait a minute.
See where I'm coming from with that.
I understand what you're saying there, but listen, I remember, I'll go back a couple of years now, and I'll go back to New Jack City. Mm-hmm. Tupac Shakur raked in the millions. And being from Harlem, like he was, and Harlem is still in the same shape it was when he left, I really think it's disgusting.
Well, do you really think that it's his responsibility as an individual only to elevate the whole situation of Harlem? And if you think he raked in the million, wait a minute. If you think he raked in the million, just think about the person who produced and the person who wrote that story. How many millions they raked in. He was just an actor.
I know.
He didn't dictate the dialogue that he said. He didn't dictate. He was directed by someone who so it's not his responsibility. First of all, you're talking about New Jack City. He was 18 years old at the time?
Okay, let me jump in and ask you a question. What, in your view, though, is the responsibility of the rap artist?
I think what the rap artist should do at this point, because since, things get worse before they get better. I think that this death could, if people decided to stop, reverse the tape, and now whatever music they have in the tubes, they need to spin it back around. See, because they can do it. The producers, the A&R people, they can decide to say, okay, let's take this trend away from this gangster hooded thing and bring it into a love thing. Or
bring it back into something.
I call it
Ralph. I call it the culture of life.
Yeah, because what?
Let's change from the culture of death
to
the culture of life.
Because they are very qualified people. I mean, look at it at on the top of the charts. People are ready for that. LL Cool J came out with an album that was not about the culture of death. It was about a relationship, and he has never, ever throughout his whole career, and I praise him as a person because I worked with him. He's never ever taken that bent with his
being
career.
a gangster. Ralph, we're running short on time. I want you to hold on. I want to get a number from you because I want to call you later. Thanks a lot for staying with us. Ralph called in this hour and has ended up being a guest here, taking your telephone calls.
I now call for a day of atonement for the death of Tupac Shakur. Now, Tupac Shakur, of course, the controversial rap artist who was gunned down in Las Vegas a week or so ago and died over the weekend. Curtis said on the air, I'm going to beat everybody to the punch. I now call for a day of atonement to memorialize Tupac Shakur. Well, lo and behold, are you ready for this? Now, this is Curtis talking, unless he had some inside information, which I doubt. The Nation of Islam has announced a Sunday hip-hop day of atonement for Shakur. Now, on the surface, that sounds kind of silly. A hip-hop day of atonement, hip-hop, atone, it doesn't seem to match, right? But listen to what they're standing for. I've never thought I would ever agree with the Nation of Islam with anything. But listen to what they want to say. The summit, this hip-hop day of atonement, Sunday in Harlem, will call for an end to the maddening genocidal destruction of the black community. According to Conrad Muhammad, is that who we spoke to the other day? Isn't that who we talked to, Conrad Muhammad? Oh, okay. Well, he's also, I didn't know he was Louis Farrakhan's national youth representative, but he's in USA Today this morning. Conrad Muhammad said that a roster of rappers and industry people from the Fugees to Chuck D to Puffy Combs to the notorious rapper, well, he may be notorious, that's also his name. Notorious, is it Big or B.I.G? Notorious B.I.G, who is said to have feuded with Shakur in the past, will all attend. Muhammad says everyone seems to want to come because they want an end to the violence. Well, may I say, I argued with Conrad Muhammad the other day on some issue. It was over the security guards at the housing complex in Coney Island. But let me say bravo to Conrad Muhammad and the Nation of Islam for their hip-hop day of atonement. And let me say bravo to Curtis Sliwa for predicting that this would happen. But Curtis wasn't saying it in the spirit that I would say it. I genuinely appreciate an attempt by the Nation of Islam and anyone within the black or white communities to try to put an end to the violence. How could anybody find fault with the Nation of Islam's effort to have this Day of Atonement to try to stop the violence, to try to stop the bloodshed and end the killing? You got to give the devil his due, folks. You got to give the Nation of Islam credit. Good for them in trying to have a hip-hop Day of Atonement Sunday in Harlem to try to stop the ceaseless, mindless killing. I'm all for it.
Mike, good morning. How are you?
Good, sir. How are you?
Very good.
Good.
Yes, the general statement that, you got to do away with violence in the black community, I think it's great. It's a good message.
Sure.
However, I think it would be naive and I think it would be very gullible until we hear the words that are spoke at that particular gathering to, jump up and down and say how great this is of the Nation of Islam, because I would bet my bottom dollar that what's going to happen at this will be typical of these folks in that it will be, in Louis Farrakhan's words themselves, the whitey devil.
Right.
It will be everybody's fault except the people that will be there that for the reasons of all this violence.
Yeah, but whatever ends they think they need to whatever means they think they need to justify the end.
Okay, well, let me...
Isn't it still a great stated purpose of a Day of Atonement to say, we got to stop the violence, we got to stop the bloodshed, we got to stop the killing? And let's say, for argument's sake, you're right, that when they get together Sunday, they're all going to say, oh, the white devil is responsible and all that. So what? If their purpose is still to let them blame the white devil. If the purpose is to figure out a way to stop black-on-black violence,
right?
Why not?
Well, I agree, whatever it takes. However, flip it around. Flip it around the other way and think about how you would feel as a African American.
Right.
Hearing the words from a radical, white, separatist, white racist.
Right.
Who said the same words against the black community.
I think I'd feel the same way most of us feel about Louis Farrakhan.
Exactly.
No, no question about it. I would, as a black American, I'd feel if the table was turned, I'd feel the same way that I do now about Louis Farrakhan. He is a radical, dangerous hate monger.
Right.
I think most of us know that, and I think many blacks know that.
Right.
But again, don't let that get in the way of the stated purpose of this Day of Atonement. Don't let that block your objectivity, and that's what you can't let happen. And I'm glad you called, because I understand your reservations, but I'm saying to heck with those reservations. Let's support, all of us, a concept and a day which calls for an end to the bloodshed, such as the bloodshed that struck and that Tupac Shakur suffered. I mean, why not? How's that a bad thing? Glad you called, sir. One open line. You agree with me, folks? Or are you cynical as well? Do you think that, are you looking at the day of this hip-hop Day of Atonement Sunday in Harlem with suspicion?
Anyone can blossom, given hard work, determination, and drive. Now, there's no doubt that Tupac worked hard when he wasn't in jail and when he wasn't doing mischievous things, which caused him to go to jail. The other part of the time was spent working. And he prospered. He prospered beyond the expectations that most of us have in this society for ourselves. He prospered through a free market enterprise system. So can society give Tupac Shakur the kind of society where he can blossom? It did. What did Tupac Shakur give to society is the question, Reverend Daughtry. What did Tupac give us? What did he give back to America? A nation that gave him material wealth beyond his wildest dreams. What did Tupac give? Well, let's look at it. He and his buds, including Suge, the CEO of Death Row Records, and once again, if you have not seen the emblem for Death Row Records, the logo, it is a man, a hooded figure, sitting in an electric chair waiting to die. That is the logo of the record company, which of course implies that in order to get in the electric chair, that hooded figure had to do something heinous and have been convicted of it. Which doesn't bother them at all. Put that, and in fact, Suge, the CEO, Suge McGuire, I think his last name is, 25 years old, 26 probably now, has this emblem on a rug in his office. He has it airbrushed on his car. They're very proud of this emblem. And they are in competition with some other record labels. Some of them, for instance, Bad Boy Records or Ruthless Records. Ruthless. What are these rappers giving to America? What are they giving to our society? Well, they're telling our young ladies, our young girls, our teenage girls, that they are, and pardon me if you have not heard the phrase used in records, but this is among the phrase they're calling them, are basically bitches, and those are the nice ones. They're telling them that they have no respect for them as women. They are telling other young men that they should resort to violence, that being a thug and a hoodlum is what one can expect in America. This is what they give to America for children to entertain themselves with as they dance. These messages. So, Reverend Daughtry, the question is not what kind of society do we have that we could not give Tupac Shakur a chance to blossom. Again, I say, Reverend Daughtry, the question is, what kind of man, what kind of individual was Tupac Shakur that all he gave America back was evil in the form of record, was a culture of death in the form of recordings? That's the question. I'd love to hear what you think about this. And I want to go further with this culture of death maybe as the program unfolds, because I mean something very specific by that. It's not just the rap music. which some of it, a lot of it, is negative. It's the attitude. It's the mindset. It's the mindset that allows young black men to call each other the kind of names that if a white guy called them that in the workplace, there'd be a lawsuit. It's the kind of culture that allows children to believe that it's much hipper and cooler to dress fly than to develop a fly mind, meaning to develop your mind and your intellect to the fullest of your potential. This culture of death involves drugs far too often. And it's blamed on a poor neighborhood. And I've been thinking about that too. What is a bad neighborhood? So if you put up buildings, picture this for a minute. If you have, and just picture buildings and buildings and buildings, picture a neighborhood without people in them. Is it bad? Are buildings, grocery stores, high-rise apartments, are they bad? What makes a bad neighborhood? What makes one neighborhood a good neighborhood and the other one a bad neighborhood? Is it the lack of money? No, I don't think so. What makes a neighborhood bad is if you have bad people in it. And what are bad people? People that like to commit, for instance, violent acts. People that want to abuse themselves and others with drugs. Any neighborhood in America could be a good neighborhood. Any neighborhood in America could be a good neighborhood. Every neighborhood in America can be a good neighborhood. Without exception. You name me a bad neighborhood, I'll show you a neighborhood that could be a great neighborhood without the culture of death surrounding it. Without the culture of death in the neighborhood. The culture that says we don't have to be the best. We can settle for being second. We can settle for being violent toward one another. We can settle for using drugs. We can settle for sending our kids to school and not giving a damn whether they learn anything. We can settle. We can settle for being second-class citizens. That is the difference between a good neighborhood and a bad neighborhood. In a good neighborhood, there is no settling for being second. There is no settling for giving your kids anything less than the best. And by that, I mean the best attitude, the best outlook on life. So, can we give Tupac Shakur the kind of society where he will blossom? I ask you that. Join us, please. Ralph, welcome to the James Golden program.
Hello, sir. I really, I never listened to the show. I was surfing the radio, and I got what you said about the culture of death, and so I stopped. That is really profound. I am a stylist in this industry of hip-hop, and I work a lot with these artists, and I'm a generation beyond a lot of them. I'm like 35 years old. So I'm not really, I mean, I remember when rap started. I was in junior high school, and I remember the African Bambaataa and all of that. It was a different type of projection that Bambaataa and these guys, even Curtis Blow and all of them were putting out. It was fun. It was new. It was fresh. They weren't on this negative, and I couldn't put it to words the way you did, you know, and when you said the culture of death, that is exactly what it is. I happened to be at the MTV Awards, and I was working with a particular group that you previously mentioned, their label. And not to code myself into, you know, I don't want to...
I understand. I understand.
But I mean, I make my living working with these people, and you're absolutely right. It has nothing to do with the society of America infringing on these people's right to or ability to benefit from the freedoms that we have here. I think it has happened that somewhere along the line, some moguls, and I hesitate to say that Suge Knight is actually, or these other people are the architects of this type of thing. I think this is what the people who are running these major conglomerates wanted to put out in conjunction with other people to feed into the mind the lack of thought of these young kids who are sitting down at 14 years old and smoking pot and drinking brews and I mean it goes beyond what we are seeing. You know, there are hidden forces and hidden agendas that have these kids turning. They have no respect for elders. So you know, it's just a perpetual situation that I see from my end.
And you're working in it.
And I'm working in it.
Let me, Ralph, interrupt you, and I want to keep you even.
I can answer so many questions. I mean, I can't.
Well, good, because I want to ask you questions.
Sure.
But I want to first just lay something on you to think about, okay?
Yeah.
You mentioned the beginning of hip-hop, of rap as we know it, and my knowledge of it goes a little bit further than that. There was a gentleman on the air who is still on the air in New York radio, Gary Imhotep Bird.
Yep, I know Gary.
Okay, who began in the 70s. And his rap, and he, in fact, went and explored the historical relation of the Groits, or those storytellers.
The griot.
The griot, right. And went all the way through. But his music was so positive, so uplifting. And
I don't want to hear that.
And what he did was talk about, basically, history and what you can achieve personally, as well as exploring relationships.
Self-determination.
It was positive.
Yeah.
Right. Somewhere in the mix, and then of course came the fun raps.
Right.
Everything that was supposed to be fun, you take everyday things and
the Run DMC and
Right.
LL Cool J and what's this Fresh Prince guy and you know. I know.
So somewhere down the line, the message got changed, and the profitable message became: let us find the most despicable, outrageous elements that we can get off the streets. And put them in a recording studio in front of a mic, competing against each other.
Right.
Let us get gang members and actually have them competing through records with each other.
Right.
And that is what hip-hop now has turned into.
Right.
I want you to hold on, Ralph. The death of Tupac Shakur and what's being said about it now, today, in case you're just joining me here. Reverend Daughtry in Brooklyn, where Tupac was a church member, I believe he joined the church, was still on the church rolls at the time of his death, offered up the idea that we in society should have offered Tupac Shakur a better society to allow him to blossom, which I reject out of hand. And my question, of course, is what did Tupac give to America? And what are a lot of the rappers giving to America? Later on, we're gonna broaden this and talk about a whole lot of other things. If you want to jump in, by the way, on this business with Iraq, feel free. But I want to go back to Ralph in Manhattan. Ralph.
Hello.
Thanks for waiting.
Yes. I just want to back up a little bit so that if anybody calls, I'm not a hypocrite in the fact that I don't agree with this and I'm working in the industry. What has happened to a lot of us stylists from the old school is that.
Explain what a stylist is.
Okay, basically the images that people see on the videos and album covers and promo pictures are what we pull the clothes. A lot of times it's dictated to us by manufacturers that have a vested interest in these people and the clothes that they wear, because it spirals down to the street in terms of what is sold and in the volumes that is sold.
So what So in other words, if what you do is you help create the look for the video.
Right. Unfortunately, I feel like a hypocrite talking about this in this sense, but you have to understand, this was my vocation that I chose at least 12 years ago. 12 years ago when I started out, there was a broader market in terms of R&B music, and specifically I'm talking about black music as a genre in which I chose to work. In turn to create beautiful images with we had more female singers. So I started out with female singers and pulling beautiful clothes and going to Paris and seeing the shows and pulling great things for a lot of our young ladies. I worked originally when I first started out. I was assisting somebody who was styling Whitney Houston in the beginning. And so, things changed. And so now if you want to keep working, the preponderance of music and the preponderance of artists that are being signed have now moved into the hip-hop. Even though it may say R&B, it's still hip-hop / R&B. Like the girls like Monica and these other artists that are making records and selling platinum albums and stuff like that. And so if you're going to still work in the industry, you have to work with who's selling and who has the budget to pay your rate, and it's a thing like that. So you're caught up in this thing. Here I was Wednesday night at the MTV Awards, and I've worked those awards 3 years in a row, and here I am sitting here amongst people, and the tension in Radio City with, and I was like, I'm saying to myself, is this where my career has brought me to be? I don't,
Let me ask you about the tension, because, and maybe those that don't know what we're talking about, I can help fill in some of the blanks here.
Yeah.
You had East Coast rappers.
Yes, you did.
On one side of the hall.
Yes, you did.
Security at Radio City decided to put the people from the West Coast, this is Tupac Shakur's bunch,
yes,
on the other side of the hall,
yes,
because it was feared that if you got both of these groups together,
there would be an explosion.
Explosion of violence.
Yes.
This is, ladies and gentlemen,
we walked through no metal detectors, okay?
At the MTV Awards.
I walked in there with my clothes, my racks, and my assistants with me, and my assistant, this pious little girl that works with me, she says to me, there are no metal detectors. Oh, my God. She says, are we going to make it out of here? Halfway through the show, I see all the security running upstairs, and I'm just like, you know what? I have $4,000 worth of clothes down here. I don't care. I'm out of here. With all what's going on, with planes blowing up, I'm saying to myself, well, this is a public event. Maybe they're destroying the world. So let me get out of here. I run upstairs, and I see Tupac on one side, and they had another guy on the other side. I didn't even know who it was. And so we run back downstairs to make sure the clothes are still there. At this point, we realize they're not blowing up the world. And then we come back upstairs, and I see half of the tuxedoed, pristine, quote-unquote, industry moguls are gone. The seats are empty. So I think the MTV people brought people down from the balcony to fill in the spaces in the orchestra area.
So in other words, the people that basically signed a lot of these groups to record deals,
when they felt the heat,
when they got in the audience with the people that they have signed to their record labels, and you have gangland violence, West Coast on one side of the room, East Coast potential violence on the other side of the room, the record executives here to celebrate the achievement of their industry got up and left.
Literally. Some people stayed, but I mean, it was very obvious to me and other people that folks have bailed out. I had friends on the outside who told me that at about 9:30, people were just like leaving. Now, some people will say that, okay, when their artists come on and they perform, they don't stay around for the rest of the show, but they leave. Look, I've worked so many award shows, Emmys, everything. Folks stay throughout the whole performance.
Staring at the world through my rear view. Just looking back at the world from another level, you know what I mean? Staring. Multiple gunshots, clear the block, the fun stops. Niggas was calling cops, people shot, nobody stopped. I wonder when the world stopped. Caring last night, 2 kids shot, while the whole block staring. I will never understand this society. But they try to murder me, then they lie to me. Veronica for John Breed, all my homies try weed. Now the little baby's crazy, raised off Hennessy. Tell me when my enemies flee when they see me. Believe me, if it does, gotta learn to take it easy. Listen, through the intermission, search your heart for a plan. We turning bad boys to grown men. It's on again. Give a holler to my niggas in the darkest corners. Roll a perfect blunt and let me spark it for you. One love from a thug nigga, rolling with a posse full of paranoid drug dealers. To the end, my friends, I'm seeing nothing but my dreams coming true. While I'm staring at the world through my rear view. See, I'm seeing nothing but my dreams coming true. While I'm staring at the world through my rear view. They got me staring at the world through my rear view. Go and baby, scream to God, he can't hear you. I can feel your heart beating fast, guess it's time to die. Getting high, watching time fly. It's all my motherfuckers, I'm staring at the world through my rear view. Go and baby, scream to God, he can't hear you. I can feel your heart beating fast, guess it's time to die. We getting high, watching time fly. All my motherfuckers. Sales, caught a nigga, so they send me to these overpacked jails in the cell, counting days in this living black hell. Do you feel me? Keys to ignition, use at your discretion. War with a 12-gauge pump for protection. Niggas hate me in this section from years of chin checking. Turn the Smith and Wesson war weapons. Heavenly Father, I'm a soldier. I'm getting hotter cause the world's getting colder. Baby, let me hold ya. Talk to my guns like they fly bitches. All you bastards best to run. Look at my pictures, now I know the answer to the question. Do dreams come true? Still staring at the world through my rear view. I said now I know the answers. Do dreams come true? Staring at the world through my rear view. They got me staring at the world through my rear view. Go ahead, baby, scream to God, he can hear you. I can feel your heart beating fast, guess it's time to die. Getting high, watching time fly. You know my motherfucker staring at the world through my rear view. Go ahead, baby, scream to God, he can hear you. I can feel your heart beating fast, guess it's time to die. Getting high, watching time fly. Nigga could die.
Back in the days we hustled for sneakers and beepers, 9-6 for Glocks, cause fools hitting up blocks with street sweepers. Bless myself with knowing rules to these streets, something I learned in school. On some million man march, shit for the peace. True that, only one life to lead, a fast life of greed. Criminally addicted, infested since the sea, we all die, breathe, bleed like humans. Towns run by young guns, outlaws and truants. Shit's deep, turn 18, roll my will when I go. Burn my body with my shotty, all Jews in my dough. So while you reminiscing all nights out with the crew, smoke a blunt for me too, I staring through your rear view.
You ain't knowing what we mean by staring through the rear view. So since you ain't knowing what we mean, let me bring a better understanding. The world's behind us. Once I get an understanding on the game and what the levels and the rules of the game is, then the world ain't no trick no more. The world is a game to be played. So now we looking at world from like behind us. Niggas know what we gotta do. We just gotta put our mind to it and do it. It's all about the papers. Money rule the world. Bitches make the world go round. Real niggas do what they wanna do. Bitch niggas do what they do.